We made it to the desert garden. This is our entrance. We built a fence around all 10 acres. Here's some olive trees lining the road into the property. Water tank, 275 gallons. We scattered those all across the property by every different tree. That pile was a compost pile. This is another olive tree. It's got the wind chimes. It's a beautiful day. It's normally not like this in the summer, so I'm taking full advantage of it. It was a beautiful day to go for a walk around the property. These trees have actually grown taller than me, so I'm trying to demonstrate that that's about as high as I can reach. They've officially grown taller than me. Over here is where a lot of our campers set up. We have a camper coming tomorrow. They'll set up either with their tent or sleep in their cars. We have, just this basic picnic table. This was one of our second iterations of a garden before we got the school bus. Here is a Mexican bird of paradise, which is actually one of my favorite native plants in the area. One of our supporters gave us that plant. This is, I believe, salt brush, like cattle salt brush. It's a native to this region. It grows really well. Here is a palo verde, which is actually growing from the base. It's very pretty. Yeah, there we go. It's really pretty. Over here, there's the other palo verde, but this one is obviously taller because we protected it from the rabbits and the mice and the chipmunks. With this planter, we just cut a hole in the bottom and put it around the tree. So as you can see, it's protecting the base of the tree. So that's a good show of different ways. And then, of course, all these plants we didn't protect because we didn't know the extent to how much pests would eat it. So we learned from our mistakes. Here's where people set campfires. I just throw the ash into the garden. This is actually where I want to one day plant or dig a pond. So I've started digging what they call waterworks in the permaculture world. That's where you just start digging swales and holes and channels and berms. It's just a way to have the water sink in slowly when it rains. And you can kind of see a slight elevation. I think after this I pan up. Yep, there's like a slight elevation. So I just dug from the top and made its way to the bottom. So hopefully one day a pond will be here. Oh, there's one of our desert pines. Doing pretty good. This fence actually I put together with a friend, and that's how we realized that we could not do all 10 acres by ourselves. So I ended up hiring someone. There's the actual fence that the people who I hired did that. So thanks to them for doing that, because this little fence was exhausting for me. All right, here's a trail back to the main road. There's another plant. And as you can see, we've scattered these 275-gallon totes everywhere. So that way we can water each plant or hook up to a drip irrigation using that as a water source just throughout every plant on the property. This is the main official road. We're now nearing the center of the property. The center of the property is actually where I first started my garden. Unfortunately, that was vandalized a couple months later, but as you can see, we came back stronger and built more. So the center of the property is a little bit of a mess because I still associate negative things with it. But yeah, that's how far we are from the entrance and the campsite. Yeah, we've come a long way. Come a really long way. Oop, Joshua tree. That is a native Joshua tree that has been growing since we got the property. It's really beautiful. Ants. It's either about to rain or going to rain, so they're doing their thing. There's lots of ants on the property. A lot of people don't know this, but ants are actually really good for the garden because they create trails for water to seep underground, but they also will plant seeds for you. Okay, now we're leaving the center of the property. Another ant. Yep. And we're heading towards the Starry Night Schoolie, which is our glamp site where we host overnight travelers. There's the Joshua tree. That's our main mature Joshua tree. The Starry Night Schoolie has actually brought in, I'd say maybe around $3,000 to $5,000 this past year. Its ROI is maybe around 4%. So it's actually, not too bad. Oh, here's our chickens and our duck. The duck's name is Arjuna, and the chickens are named Cheeky and Riki. Hi, Arjuna. Hi, Cheeky. Hi, Riki. Okay. It was a little bit cluttered right now because I tried to move everything for the rain, just because I didn't want it to get wet. Some bird seed. We usually have waterfowl pellets for them, but I haven't gone to the feed store, so that's on my list. Yeah, they're pretty good dudes. We actually rescued these males specifically because males are killed by their owners. We put up the shade sail, or the sail shade, to kind of create a nice patio space for guests and for ourselves. There's a chicken coop way in the distance. Woo! Okay. Oh, that's right. I think I forgot my key, so I'm putting everything back. But yeah, essentially this is where everybody sort of hangs out after a long day of planting. This is where the volunteers hang out. Little quirky decorations everywhere. That was actually from one of my former professors. This was drilled in by one of my friends who owns a landscaping business. All of our equipment, we desperately need a shed. You can see the hammock, a little tiny house for my daughter that we found in the desert. Back here, this is where a lot of the planting happens. We have 3 palo verde that are doing really well. Really well. And deeper into the property, you can start to see all of our materials that I've just collected over the years. Most of this stuff I got for free on Craigslist, or people hear about the project that we're doing and they just donate it, which is super sweet of them. Okay, don't laugh. I am not a builder, but this is my attempt at a chicken coop, which has obviously been blown by the winds. I would love to one day be able to have a legit big coop for the ducks and the chickens because they deserve that. Until then, this is what I made do with, like materials that people just gave us or materials that I found and brought to the desert myself. This is actually our human manure area. I used to have 2 toilets here, but I think guests like it closer to the bus. So that's where we cure the compost and the human manure. This is doing great. I think this is a type of elm, but don't quote me on that. Feel free to correct me if you know. We just found it growing randomly in our garden in the city, and we brought it back to the desert, and it's doing really well. That was cacti that was donated to us. As you can see, we're far away from the bus, and there's the Joshua tree. Okay, so now I'm walking along. This is kind of the area where we did our 3rd garden, which is actually just a series of rows of desert pine trees. This was an experiment in lining the border of our property with trees in order to one day guard against pollution. Most of the pine trees have been eaten by grasshoppers, at least the pines, but I'll show you what I can. This one is my favorite because A, look how tall it's gotten. Ooh, can barely reach it. I gotta stand on my tippy toes. There you go. But B, look at this gorgeous pine cone in the desert. To me, this symbolizes hope. This symbolizes beauty. This symbolizes love. Like, we have been taking care of this tree. Even though it doesn't have its needles now, like, its needles are going to come back because it's still hanging on, you know? It's weathered, but it's still hanging on. And so you'll see all of these smatterings. We space them out, rows and rows of desert pines. Some are barely hanging on, others are doing really well. This one's still got some needles at the end. The hope is that at some point we're going to be able to plant additional grasses and wildflowers and shrubs around the trees in order to make little diverse silos for the trees, right? That way they're not just alone. But until then, like, these are sort of the protector trees of the property, which is really beautiful. That is an attempt at assemblage art by a variety of my friends and I. I was inspired by the Noah Purifoy Foundation, which is this artist in LA. He decided to create sculptures in the desert that look a little bit like that. Oh, gorgeous. I wish you could smell this. It smells incredible. It's pine in the desert is like, wow, who knew? All right, so we're going here. This little guy, those two little guys are dead, I believe. But we leave them so that way the roots can kind of stay in the ground. This is actually a really good example of what happens to the trees when it's windy. As you can see, it's kind of tilting over, and we don't want that. Oop, baby pine cone. So we're trying to make sure that, and I think I do this here, honestly, haphazardly, but in the future, I want to be able to to dig posts on the windward side, so on the southwest side of each tree, and then use rubber, like long strands of rubber, to affix the tree to the post, so that way the tree's kind of bouncing with the wind instead of being blown by the wind. Oh, and this is what I mentioned earlier. We were inspired by Noah Purifoy. So if you know about that artist, you know why it looks like this. It's just random assemblage art constructed by me and some friends. And of course, some Starry Night Schoolie guests help with this, actually. So here I am just, making sure it doesn't blow in the wind. One day I'd love to make like an actual art sculpture there. But until then, okay, here you can see some browning, and that's unfortunate. And you can see how the tree has been severely affected by the wind, right? It's completely blowing in the other direction. And some needles are falling. Oops. There we go. I just, besides watering, it's just good to take care of trees. This one's gone, but still has that little guy. These are our 2 water totes. That's the water line. So we've actually used a significant amount of water because, of course, it's summer. Here's an example of one doing really well. Like, look how well this one's doing. I think it has to do with the location as well as the lack of wind. Okay, here's another one. I'm actually going to redo this, I think, if I remember correctly. I didn't want it to be touching the tree. I wanted it to be supporting the foundation of that green post instead of touching the tree. But yep, a lot of the times we just walk around the property and we water what we can, but we also kind of just adjust the trees however we can. There's a lot of talking to the trees and like connecting with the soil, connecting with the leaves, because it is actually really cool that these trees are surviving. That's not a small thing, especially in the desert. Okay. This is sort of my last walk because we're nearing the end. Oh, how beautiful. It's really pretty. We're nearing the end of the row of pine trees. So just checking the ground. Oh, this is actually my first attempt at drip irrigation, which a stray dog actually destroyed. So I learned my lesson. I'm actually going to dig it even deeper the next time around. So that was a good lesson. Here is actually a tree that one of our guests planted. I don't know if it's going to come back. I feel like it's probably gone, but I still like to check on this tree and water it just in case it does come back in the fall. I think that would be amazing. Oh, check out that spider. How pretty. I've never seen a spider like that. I see a lot of yellow spiders out here, and I've seen a black widow, but that is gorgeous. And look, that spider is just hanging out in the desert. You know, if she can do it, I can do it. All of us can do it. Okay, that's the bus. And you can kind of see the beginnings of a rainbow. But it's a beautiful day. There's the entrance of the property. That's our car. There's the gate. So this is all 10 acres. We decided not to clear out the entire property because we wanted to leave a lot of the native flora and fauna. Hi, that's me. I think now is a good time to actually show you the schoolie. So I will do that.